No, look, what I will say is I think that Ali's right. It won't be the revelations that you're looking for. What I would really like to see is the correspondence between the US Embassy and John Kerr. That's where the dynamite.
Right. Because you want more CIA goss and all that.
Yeah, I'm not really interested in the Queen because she's just a figurehead.
She is a figurehead.
So she wouldn't have been in on it at all.
No,
she would have just been having tea. There would have just been this form in the way, and she would have just thought about it like paying a parking ticket.
Yeah.
Another one of these. All right.
Because back in the day, like you could literally dismiss a prime minister as long as the governor general was saying that I think you should dismiss the prime
Back
minister.
in the day, you can still do
Yeah.
that.
Really?
No, you technically can't. There's like, I mean, you can
technically
theoretically.
couldn't back then, but they do.
Right.
Wait, no. They changed it after a little bit.
What did
Did
they
they?
change?
So before, all you needed was the governor, because the governor general is basically the representation of the queen. Basically, the governor general is the queen. If you think about it this way, right?
Yeah.
So if the queen herself believes that the prime minister needs to go, then the prime minister would have gone. But then after Whitlam's dismissal, they realized that this could be exploited. Because we actually had a very similar thing in Pakistan too. Like what ends up happening is...
Many times.
Many times. So what ends up happening is the opposition courts the governor general and the governor general dismisses the prime minister, and it's just a horrible process that keeps happening. So there's now... I can't remember exactly what the amendments were, but... there are more checks and balances, so you can't just blanketly say it. I think you need parliamentary approval or something now.
Parliamentary, really? So,
Yeah.
like, you take a vote on whether.
Yeah, a vote from the parliament.
That's good. That makes a lot more sense. Does that mean it's like?
Whitlam still would have been dismissed under that system.
No, Whitlam
how?
existed in a system where that wasn't the case.
Why would he be?
No,
It wouldn't be the case, but it wouldn't have prevented it. So what's the point?
Why? Because there's a Lib majority and they'd vote against it.
no, there wasn't a Lib majority.
There was a Lib.
Labour-
No, there wasn't a Lib majority, but they could have got crossbenchers for that. Definitely. That's how they were able to block the supply bill in the Senate.
Yeah, true. I mean, like, if you can court, that can, like, happen to anyone then. Like, if you can court, like, people from your own party to vote against you, you're screwed at that point. Because at that point, you probably shouldn't even be the prime minister. No one in the parliament wants you there.
What do you mean crossbenchers? Though? Aren't they just like backbenchers? People in
No,
parliament.
crossbenchers are the ones in the Senate that are your Jackie Lambys, your Pauline Hanson.
Oh,
but
you're
they-
talking
dude,
about,
they
like,
might
people that
vote.
were not from the Labour Party.
Yeah.
You were talking about, like, independents and, like, smaller party members.
I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure in the second election of Whitlam, he had a really water-thin majority in the lower house. And I'm pretty sure that there was independents that you could court, and that's why there was a lot of mayhem. But especially when it came to the Senate, they had no control over the Senate at all.
But in that case, it's actually very easy to get rid of someone, because if you're, like, existing in a hung parliament situation, you don't need a single member of their party to vote against the prime minister. That's why, like, you want a majority. That's why everyone wants a majority. Or not even like a majority, but simple majority, where, like, no one can kick you out by mobilizing everyone else aside from your party. If somehow if the opposition leader can mobilize people from within the party, then you're, like, screwed anywhere. You don't need the Queen or the Governor General. There'll
That's
just be
true.
a vote of confidence and you'll be gone.
Well, that's how it's done now. It's the
Yeah.
Kevin Rudd model. But you know what happened after that? And this is my conspiracy theory that I think is just fact, as always, when it comes to these things. But after the Whitlam dismissal, the CIA discovered that, oh shit, these guys can actually gain power. So they didn't even really care about the Labor Party until then. So what happened after that is they started infiltrating the union movement and the Labor Party itself, much like they did to the Liberals, which is why John Kerr grew up in all of these organizations that are linked to the CIA. So he was, quote, and this is just WikiLeaks, I think, was just, quote, their guy.
Right.
So John Kerr was in on this and was from the CIA. And then after that, the CIA started infiltrating the Labor Party. Now, this is according to a man that was one of the main operatives in Australia that dismissed Whitlam. And he was saying that after that, there was a concerted effort to do the same thing in the Labor Party. And then when you look at the people that were the main instigators of Rudd's demise, those guys had very strong links and a continual relay with the US Embassy. So in the 70s, it was outwardly the CIA doing it. It was, and this is just something that they admitted in 1980 in their Congress, I think. It was definitely in the 80s somewhere, that the Whitlam dismissal was just a Chilean coup. It was basically the same operatives that they used.
Because it also, like most people, there was a civil war between the Labour Party after that too. There was.
Oh, so they really did break it up.
It ruined the Labour Party for a bit.
What exactly was the unbelievable, egregious action that he took?
It's a Liberal Party ad. What you are taught in school about the Whitlam dismissal is a Liberal Party ad. It's
I can't
just
even
that they're
remember.
Reckless economic management.
Actually, that was
to be stopped.
that's such bullshit because
what's
I
the
looked
reality?
into that and that
And he
was
was a sick economic
such
manager.
baseless claims.
So what was the
You know
reality?
what they? I don't know if he was a sick economic manager.
No, he
But
definitely
the
was.
reasonings for his dismissal were such bullshit. First of all, they started. I can't remember the guy's name, Jordan, because this is like going way into like the nitty-gritties
It's Australia. There's a
of it.
50% chance it's Graham.
Yeah, he's right.
He was some banker who, again, weirdly, and I'm not, again, kidding about this. So Whitlam appointed this one banker who had ties with my uncle, who was a big
Yeah.
banker too back in the day. He had
Exposed.
there used to be a bank called BCCI. Which my uncle started, and it started like it was a small bank in Pakistan, then became huge. It became like one of the top banks in the world with like headquarters everywhere. And they eventually that bank got dismantled because they were doing dodgy dealings. Like my uncle, I think he was house arrested for a bit. Anyway,
Just
moving on.
gloss us over that part.
I would read your biography.
No, but, like,
No, me too.
yeah,
You know?
Just this gas titan from Mad Max 4, also just this
Married his
banking
cousin.
billionaire. Yeah, huge incessant intrigue.
Ghosts.
It's pretty
he's
much
seen a
just
ghost.
I, Claudius, set in South Asia.
Yeah, Othello.
Well,
great.
it was so, but he was like, his bank was a bit shady. There was a reason why his bank became so big so quick. He just didn't care about whose money was in his bank. That was
Well,
basically it.
it's
So
not
he was
unheard of.
he was keeping in money from like known terrorists and shit.
it's like-
Right,
anyways,
so
moving
the
on.
media narrative that
It's like the Chinese
them trying to get a
bank.
loan approved by this bank actually checked out. It was dodgy for them to do it.
Yeah,
Right.
and so
For reasons undisclosed by our league.
But like,
we get the
so
picture.
Whitlam appointed this one guy who was doing this dealing with with my uncle's bank, and at that point, my uncle's bank had it had become known that these guys are dodgy. What an advertisement! He's a distant uncle. So
even his own family doesn't defend him.
I'm starting to see how you got into the country. Like you like basically run the country from this, from what I understand. Like
No, it
deep
wasn't-
ties to Australian government. Like
And think about how much this country hates immigrants. It was still a struggle for him when he runs it.
he built the Harbour Bridge, and they're like, it's rusting now.
But so what happened was that Whitlam had one of his bankers. He had appointed. He's given them some post, and then it became known that like he's dealing with BCCI, and then the Liberal Party started saying that Whitlam is a corrupt economic manager, and this guy is dealing with crooks. Blah blah blah. Right? Eventually, Whitlam dismisses this guy. Once BCCI became like even more known. The reason why Whitlam got dismissed was because the same Liberal Party that was initially saying that you have hired crooks said that you dismissed someone for personal vendetta and he was a great man.
Whoa.
That was one of the reasons, because this is how I found out about this, because I was watching, you know how ABC does like these retro news clippings?
Retrospectives.
Yeah. So they had like these kids.
On
this was-
this day,
on this day, just before Whitlam's dismissal, and they were asking these kids in Canberra, "What do you think about Whitlam?" And everyone started naming this one banker, this guy that I'm talking about. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name, but they started saying, "Yeah, Whitlam shouldn't have dismissed this guy." And that's when I looked into like, who the hell was this guy? And that was the basis for the Labour Party like saying that he's a bad economic manager. They first forced him to dismiss someone, and once he did dismiss him, they said that you're being too authoritarian and dismissed him for the wrong reasons. And he was actually a great guy.
The reason. That's the reason. Is that even unparliamentary? You can do that. That shit happens all the time. It's not illegal. What's wrong with firing someone that you suspect is being you suspect is corrupt. That's
Well, that's not what
illegal.
they were arguing. They were arguing that Whitlam dismissed him because he is corrupt and he was the only.
But they have
you know
to
what's the
prove
fucked up
that.
thing about
They
this?
have to pro-
This one guy who was dealing with the banker, who was one of the most lefty people in Labor at the time.
Jim
so
Caan.
the Liberal,
Jim
that's
Caan.
the name, right? Sorry,
Kerry, huh?
yeah, Jim
go on.
Caan. Sorry. Well, you knew the name this whole time and you didn't say anything.
Yes, man. You got to say yes to everything.
Yeah, but I was
Jim.
trying to decipher in my mind, was it Jim Caan or Jim Carrey? Which
Jim Caan. That was his.
oh, no, that's right. He was the treasurer under Howard. Yeah.
No, go on, because this is. I see. Go on.
Yeah, so all these kids were saying that Jim Caan shouldn't have been like kicked out by Whitlam, but like the precursor to that was
Jim Caan-
intense pressure on Whitlam to kick him out, and the Liberal Party, who till today defend Jim Caan, is ideologically opposite to them. They only do it for political convenience because that man was. There was a lot that could be said about him. Being a Liberal sympathizer was not one of them.
Yeah.
And you know
He
what
was
else you
more
can't say
left to
about him?
Whitlam.
He was a really good treasurer
Right.
because the entire Australian apparatus being packed with libs over the last 30 years, the grand vision of Gough Whitlam's government, which was the real reason that he was dismissed, is because he wanted to nationalise the mines in this country, which would have been the best economic decision you could have ever made. So it's just complete hogwash just on that one point, that they were terrible economic managers. The other one, reduced tariffs by 25%. One of the wisest economic moves
Really?
since, the people will go back now and say, yeah, that was the beginning of the liberalisation of Australia's economy, which, you learn if you just look on the net, people will say that was a terrible move and a terrible decision, and they'll just highlight these couple of points here and there. But really, that made this economy really dynamic and competitive with the rest of
Right.
the world. That was the beginning of it. There was that, and then also the fact that he opened up trade relations with China. So you're welcome, Australians who think that he was a terrible economic manager, despite the fact that your job now
Is
is a
because-
direct result of him.
Wow.
That's the vision that this man had.
Holy shit.
But
So that was like it was also the nail on his coffin. Like first of all, you say, look, dude, imagine like a politician that today says, yeah, we're going to nationalize the mine and also
open with
fuck the
China.
U.S. We're gonna open relations with China. You
I don't think
can't-
he said fuck.
and
US.
also this,
He
said
kind
to
of
the
did. He
US,
kind of did, yeah.
you're not allowed to bomb Cambodian villages. That was his other nail in the coffin.
Well, that would have.
Who do you think you are?
He was just saying all of the things that America would hate.
Yeah.
Because by nationalizing mines, what you essentially are saying, and particularly then, all these American companies that were gaining so much from this trade,
the mines.
then that would not be because like
Yeah.
they're not.
Okay,
gonna-
here's a
It's the demise of virtually every Labor Prime Minister in Australia's history is picking a fight with mines or the banks.